Okay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ashley, and I am the coordinator for Saskatchewan Open Farm Days. I'm really grateful here to have you here and to be watching live or in future when we go through our Agritourism 101 outline here. So just a few housekeeping notes. Like I said, this is going to be recorded. Just make sure that if you have questions to throw them into the chat, or if you're watching this after the recording, send me an email. My information will be on the last slide and it's on our Open Farm Days website. And please feel free to follow us on social media and make sure to get into those host resources. There's some really great tools there if you are looking for more information here on Open Farm Days than what we do. So hopping right into it, we're getting into what is agritourism and the main reason why we're here today. So it really does include recreational, educational, and leisure activities provided by farmers, ranchers, producers across a variety of farms and businesses. It encompasses activities and events, services related to agriculture or occurring both on and off farm, and it connects consumers with agriculture through their heritage, natural resources, culinary experiences, and it typically falls into three main categories. So we're looking at on-farm, on-ranch, in the business activities, food-based experiences, and heritage-related activities. So looking at the larger, more encompassed picture, agritourism is more than what just happens on the farm. It's connected to so many different areas, and we see that throughout the agriculture sector as well. The culinary tourism value chain really refers to the interconnected network of these businesses and the individuals involved to create and deliver culinary tourism experiences. So that's kind of the overarching, and it all feeds into each other. So, and it really does encompass everything from food producers to farmers markets, restaurants, food tours, accommodation providers. They all work together to create a complete taste of place for visitors, in each step adding value to the overall experience. So when we think of those visitors coming to a region or going out to explore their communities, it's when they come to Saskatchewan, they think of those core things that really are truly Saskatchewan, whether it's the dill or the pierogies or the lentils, whatever that taste of place is for them that they're looking and searching for, or maybe they don't know what that is. But by having producers and experiences along this value chain that all feed into that story and tell that story in their own way, really does give people that taste of place that they're really looking for here in Saskatchewan. So agritourism does support economies throughout the sector, and it really does enhance our understanding of agriculture and strengthens rural communities and provides producers with an additional revenue stream. The connection between visitors and farm fosters appreciation for food production and those modern practices. And it really does create that crucial gap between the rural and urban communities, whether you are drawing visitors from Saskatchewan or beyond. The connection to farm here in Saskatchewan itself, 12.5% of Saskatchewan's population are newcomers to Canada, and many of who don't have exposure to Canadian farming practices or real life. So being able to create that connection for them is what agritourism does for them. And only 35% of our population, sorry, are now only resides in rural areas. So meaning the majority of our residents are disconnected from a direct agriculture experience, and our rural population actually declined by 1.7% in 2021, which is really highlighting the need to revitalize and support these communities. Saskatchewan itself, being that almost breadbasket of the country, we host 60.3 million acres of farmland, which is the largest in share in Canada, 39.2% with over 34,000 farms. When we look off the beaten path for tourism and we're talking about the industry and how this interconnects, being able to connect, like I said, those urban residents with those vibrant rural neighbor communities creates that appreciation for agriculture, supports those rural economies, but there's more to travel within Canada. There's more travel in Canada where people want to come off the beaten track. Majority of travelers have already been to Banff, Vancouver, Toronto, and there's more and more interest, especially in UK markets and foreign markets, for interest that is happening outside of those regions. They want to go and see kind of that behind the scenes of Canada. And tourism in Canada, just some stats for you who aren't familiar. It really accounts for 91.9 billion of revenue into Canada, which is absolutely amazing. And in Saskatchewan alone, it accounts for 2.47 billion in visitor spending, which is quite remarkable for our little province. So, who are these agri-tourists that come and want to experience agritourism in communities? So, generally, they are domestic travelers from urban areas close to an agritourism destination. They seek out experiential, life-enriching vacations that involve culture, nature, outdoors, and learning. As you as the business have the opportunity to decide on what market to base your goals. Are you wanting to focus on families for year-round experiences? Are you wanting to focus on corporate groups or conferences? Those are different markets that require different things, but when you start in your agritourism journey or as you're building your business, you want to be intentional with who you focus on. The general agritourist as a whole, if we're looking at consumers, are really aligned with that current shift towards Canadian made, locally sourced and environmentally conscious and authentic tourism experiences. And they really do have a growing desire for the outdoors and matching those with leisure activities across the country. And then looking back in respect to the COVID-19 pandemic and the limitations to national, international travel, we did see a lot of urban residents look to our rural areas to go and explore. And this really does create a potential for developing staycation packages and experiences. And people are still looking for less crowded, open air spaces to go and travel and to spend time together with family. So looking more specifically, agritourists are very environmentally conscious, majority of them are, and consumers are consumers within their early 40s with small families. The income is typically around the national average, and they are predominantly domestic travelers, and they prefer to travel independently rather than as a part of a group. Generally speaking, they're interested in learning about where their food comes from through direct contact and storytelling with farmers, producers, and growers, and that includes participating in a range of agritourism activities, and it creates connections to the landscape and cultural practices of that region, which is whether it's a personal thing, trying to understand the family farm, where they came from, or if it's something that they're newcomers to Canada and they want to understand what food is grown in our backyard. It's a mix of both. So visitors to Saskatchewan specifically, if we're looking at the data, this is actually through Tourism Saskatchewan. They have a visitor profile on their website that I find quite helpful. If you look under their business hub, all of their data is on there. And so when examining these visitors to Saskatchewan, both domestic and international travelers primarily come for that shopping, sightseeing, visiting friends and family. But the one common factor that every visitor has in common is that they have to eat. And so by looking at that food and beverage number, knowing that they're probably going to spend majority of their funds in that, they're going to go off word of mouth by visiting friends and family as to where to eat, what to go and explore. So creating that connection between food here and that taste of place in Saskatchewan and finding the connection to those visiting friends and family is a great opportunity to like create that trust for those must-stop places when they come and visit friends and family on a regular basis. Okay, now looking at the types of agritourism activities, don't get overwhelmed. This is a huge list, but there's a great opportunity here to really dive into a range of experiences within agritourism itself. So the first thing I would recommend always starting with is your direct sales, that direct sale product that you either already sell to consumers, whether it be through farmers markets or grocery stores, whatever that might be, but taking that and amplifying what you're doing within that direct sale is a great starting point. And that's what people want to know majority of the time is the food that they're able to purchase from you and the story behind it. Those demonstration and displays showing grain milling, showing seed cleaning, sorting, and then those hands-on experiences, the farm and ranch work experience. People want to go and experience what it's like to actually work on a farm, spend a day out there. I actually used to be a wrangler in the mountains in Kananaskis, and so being able to take folks on horseback rides in the mountains and herding cows and doing all of those things was an experience that we offered, and it was very interesting. The range of people that would always come on tours and their what they had seen in like Yellowstone or in old Western movies versus the reality of it was always so fun to make that connection for them, whether it was grasped and there's any reality in what they had in their mind versus what was actually going on the ranch. It was really neat to make that connection and create that story for them. So looking at different types of agritourism across Canada, I have 3 examples here that I'm kind of familiar with. This one here, dining on the ocean floor, I'll get into it a little bit more if you've seen this already. I've talked about this lots in other presentations that I've done because I find it so fascinating. But the one thing to note in all 3 of these experiences is the pricing, seasonality, and how each experience actually speaks to the authenticity of the region. So it shares that taste of place. When we think of Manitoba and the prairies, we think of those pierogies. This is a self-guided experience where people have an app that they have on their phone and they go on a different pierogi trail and they get a gamified experience of tasting different pierogies in Manitoba. Over the Hill Orchards and Winery, I work quite closely with them. They're actually a farm with Saskatchewan Open Farm Days, and they offer supper in the orchard where you go and they partner with local chefs to provide meals throughout the summer. They're 4-course meals overlooking the beautiful valley here you can see in the picture, but then they also do a tour of their orchard and provide a wine pairing with the meal, also with the wine that they make in-house. So it really blends together that culinary and farming piece all in one experience along with the chefs. Looking at the dining on the ocean floor, the available dates for this are from June 23rd to September 17th. And that's something that I want to take note is that when you are creating an agritourism experience or building out what you want to do, you want to make it work for you and your business and the goals. This is a great example of seasonality. You can only experience dining on the ocean floor within this time because of the season and the tides that go on with this experience. But I have a little video that goes into the experience, gives you a summary of the guest. I will play this. And then at the end, I want you guys to put your guesses as to how much per seat it is for people to experience dining on the ocean floor. Karina, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear the volume when it gets started?
Hi, my name is Chris Felden. I'm the owner of the Flying Apron Inn and Cookery in Somerville, and this is where we're cooking today. We are in Burnt Coat Head Park, and we have a dining 25 feet underwater, or even more, maybe 40 feet, depends on how high the tide is today.
When we see one, we're definitely going to know what it is. There aren't any things that are alive in the shells, other than the parent.
Hi, I'm Alan Bailey from Meander River Farm and Brewery, and we made this special beer that I have here for the event. It's called Surf and Turf, and it was made with seaweed and peated malt. Very good.
part of the Lac-qui-Vie was barrel fermented in oak to give it a little more weight. So we think it should work really well with the richer seafood that you're being served. So please enjoy.
Made you a charcuterie plate. It has duck prosciutto, it has chorizo, it has a bresaola, and a French salami, and a pork prosciutto on there.
My name is Jonathan Newell. I'm here helping out the Flying Apron Cookery at the Ocean Floor Dinner. And I'm here to bring everybody out to take a look what's growing and what might be edible.
A butter poached lobster and a little bit of a lime mayonnaise under the lobster, a little bit of garlic butter on top. And the other one is marinated beef tenderloin with a herb pesto. Good steak, good. Good steaks, good beef.
Dinner on the ocean floor. It's been amazing. The food is superb. The hospitality, it's an experience I think that everyone should enjoy when they come to Nova Scotia or here living in Nova Scotia.
We've had an absolutely beautiful afternoon and evening. The food was wonderful. The wine and the beer were wonderful, and it's a great place to be, and Nova Scotia should be very, very proud.
Fabulous, fantastic. I think so. Was it good? Was it good? Hey, here you go. Yeah, it was great. And we made it before the water is coming, so here you go.
So I always just love that example because it really doesn't capture what you'd expect from going and dining in Nova Scotia. So if you have a guesstimate as to how much it costs per person for that, if you want to throw it into the chat, I'm always so curious. For example, just for reference, supper in the orchard here at Over the Hill Orchards is $79 a person, and that doesn't include a wine pairing. So if you have any guesses, throw it in there. The other thing talking about pricing is the Manitoba Pierogi Trail. This is something that is essentially a marketing tool where there's an app that promotes the different pierogi restaurants. It's free for people to participate, except for, of course, purchasing from these restaurants. So it's kind of a pay-to-play model when it comes to the cost of it, but it really does the pricing of things really does go across the spectrum. And we have a couple guesses in here, $300, $150. So per person this year, if you were to book dining on the ocean floor, it's $804 a person, which is remarkable. And they have been running this, I think this is their 8th or 10th year. I can't remember when they started this, but they've been doing it for quite some time and they've sold out every single year. And the thing is that because it is so authentic, because it is something, it's a bit more extreme because you're dining on the ocean floor. It's very, very niche to that area. But being able to create experiences like Over the Hill, like something that's very specific to your area and what you do, is something that people will pay for and are keen to pay for, especially if it's something in their backyard. So now what? It's like, oh, this is great information. Now do we get into? So now you have a general sense of agritourism, digging into the next steps of what it's like to create an agritourism experience of your own, leading into step one, if this is a fit for you and your operation. If you haven't yet, we do have a quiz on Saskatchewan Open Farm Days about if your farm or operation is ready to start an agritourism or to participate in Open Farm Days. And it really does give you a good taste of what some of those questions you want to ask yourself. And I have created a list of resources that I have found very personally helpful in creating agritourism experiences. I will share those all with you in an email afterwards, just so that you have that information. I find some of them, there's only one of them that is paid, um, and it's only like $20. So it's not anything substantial, but it's nice to have a little bit of a repertoire of resources to dig into to see what's the best fit for you. And also, one other thing to mention is that open farm days is a great opportunity to test your experience for a weekend. See what works for you, how you could potentially build on this beyond just a weekend event and have this as a summer experience offering or as an off season for you and your business. So, getting into that inquiry of what you're looking for, you really want to assess your personal and business goals. Also, a side note, I will share all of these slides with you, so you're able to review these afterwards when you're starting to work through everything. You want to evaluate those risks and responsibilities. How does this work within our own organization? The liability. Open farm days, we do offer event specific insurance. So there is specific insurance for operators out there that you highly recommend you look at getting from the first and foremost. And then also identify the potential benefits and how this operation or experience aligns with your goals. If you want to diversify your farm income streams, strengthen those connections with community, tell those stories within the food system that you're creating, you want to make sure that that's kind of your first and foremost of understanding the why behind doing this. Then getting into the ideation and research. So understanding your agritourism the opportunity that you want to offer in your operation. So we have that list of, I don't know how many hundred of different operations, but just even looking and seeing what other businesses are doing. What are they offering? How are they operating in the winter? Reach out to other farms in other communities. When we were starting open farm days, we actually reached out to the other open farms that happen across Canada, just so we could have a good idea as to what was working, what isn't working, and how they were growing. Really conduct your market research. Like I had said, Tourism Saskatchewan, if you look under their business hub, they have a lot of market research. There isn't one specifically on agritourism, but if you start to look into some of the market research they have some really neat things specific to like wildlife, photography, Indigenous experiences. So there's some really great ways to start to understand what the market is exactly looking for, just digging into that. Another piece to mention is understanding your regulations and policies around your business and your location. Contact your rural municipality offices for zoning and land use requirements. First and foremost, before you get started on anything, that is where I would start, is understanding, can I do this here? What do I need to do in order to do this? Lots of stories out there about businesses having to change or adapt or build things in order to meet zoning regulations. So just make sure that you're within the scope that you're able to achieve. And then also determine that financial feasibility, understanding your startup costs. There are grant programs available for you when it comes to this, but I'll leave that to Karina to speak to what they offer through Tourism Saskatchewan with the diversification funding, but there's some really great programs out there for you to even just start to build on what you're doing. One of those tools I would recommend doing and digging into a market, or when you're doing your market research, is focus groups. So when you have your initial kind of experience that you want to offer, providing a focus group to friends and family or customers that you already have, it's that small group of 6 to 10 people that engages with that interactive discussion about what you're doing or goes on the experience and is able to give you some feedback from their consumer perspective. So having a post-event survey where they can submit feedback to you anonymously. There's lots of great survey platforms out there that are free, whether it be Google Sheets or Google Forms, sorry, or SurveyMonkey. There's tons of great resources out there, but just having a focus group will give you an idea as to kind of those pain points that they saw from a different perspective. When you're in it all the time, you don't necessarily see all the things that they would see. And then getting into the actual development. So creating that business plan, understanding, going back to your values, your mission, what you want to achieve, planning for seasonality. Are you going to be open during the winter? Are you not going to be open during the winter? Those are questions you want to ask yourself from the get-go. And then understanding your legal and risk management, getting those permits, understanding infrastructure and operations, the flow of things, even just basic things like parking. If there's parking, is the field full of gopher holes? Is it going to get muddy in the spring? What are we looking at here when people arrive in different times? Just to make sure that that is something that, coming from a urban visitor, may be a bit of a pain point for them. And if you have something funny that it's like, when people book, tell them to to bring their rubber boots when it's raining, or if it's been rainy, to send them a note in advance saying, hey, you should plan rubber boots just because it's a bit muddy here at the farm or at your operation. It gives them that personalized experience that they're really going to remember at the end of the day. Remembering simple things like washrooms and signage. There's simple things like that really do go a long way if people are going to a new venue. And then determining staffing, if you need to staff up, if you're going to run this on your own, if you're going to do volunteers. And just even when you're building this out, creating notes as you go so that you're able to really formalize staffing. If you do end up hiring a summer student, things like that, you're able to go back and say, okay, this is the goals of this experience. Here's my little job description that goes with it, just so you're feeling confident in what the experiences are that you're offering. Getting into product positioning and understanding what products are there in the market. There's a few ways that you can look at this. So if you're just wanting to offer, not just, but if you're wanting to focus specifically on like domestic, regional travelers to your business, you want to focus on what other experiences there are within Saskatchewan, maybe a bit into Manitoba and Alberta, just to have a good idea as to what those pricing and experiences are that are out there. If you're wanting to look more internationally, or if you're wanting to look into more of like businesses coming to your facility, conference tours, international travel, those all have very different price points and very different experience requirements that they're going to be looking for. For example, when I actually had the opportunity to hop on a tour with some Chinese delegates that were coming to purchase group tours coming to Saskatchewan, one thing that they were always looking for was warm lunches. If you provided them with a cold lunch, they weren't going to encourage, or they weren't going to book anything with you, because that's just not within their norm and their realm of what they would experience with a visit to Canada or on any sort of tour. But the other thing that they were looking at is the seas of flowers. And they were asking me about when to see the seas of flowers. And I'm like, oh, geez, what seas of flowers are we talking about? And it was the canola fields. They're looking for that window. They wanted to plan to come and see the canola fields and stand in the picture. And so even just knowing I can stop roadside here and there's lots of space where a bus could park and people could go beside a field to take pictures of canola fields on their way to your experience is just an additional piece that people from that market specifically would really enjoy. So just understanding what they're looking for and digging into that. There's lots of good research out there about that. One fun thing to look at as well, Destination Canada has something called an EQ, a visitor EQ. And so they have a little quiz on their website where you can go and actually understand what your visitor EQ is. Typical visitors to culinary agritourism experiences are in that cultural experience, or cultural visitor realm. So they're looking to understand the heritage and the history of the region. But it's really neat to see what your travel patterns are like and what you would look for, and versus like somebody else in your family. It's really kind of a fun thing. I'll send that along to you guys as well. The other thing to consider when you start to go to market, which I guess gets into this, is that off to market, the data that you're collecting from visitors gives you a great opportunity and can give you a bit of a leg up into understanding how to market to these folks. So by collecting postal codes, you can actually use a tool called Prism 5, PRIZM and the number 5. And you can actually enter your postal code in it. It'll show you who's living in your neighborhood, which is kind of eerie in its own way, the types of psychographics that go along with those folks. But what's neat is you can actually look at visitors who um, come to your experience and your offering, enter their postal code and see, oh, they're from a suburb and they're from Calgary, but from this suburb who's looking for these kinds of experiences. So it gives you kind of a better idea as to what their shopping habits are like, their travel habits, all of those things that go along with the marketing that you are going to apply to them. So being able to apply those marketing tactics in much more of a specific way instead of that kind of gunshot approach will just make your marketing dollars go so much further. Understanding when you get into market, having a brand identity and logo. If you only have a handful of pictures that you're using to display your experience, don't think that that is a bad thing. Use, like, cameras are so good on phones now, but one thing to consider is that if you're tired of looking at the same 5 photos, your visitors probably aren't. They probably haven't seen the same 5 photos that you have seen. So being able to kind of take it from the visitor's perspective, use those top photos that are performing the best for you, gives you the opportunity to really showcase those ones that really work well for you. Also, other things to consider are those community and partnerships that are around you. So whether it's an ag association or your chamber of commerce, your tourism person in the area, if it's if you have relationships with the city or the town that are next to you, there's really great opportunities to partner in those smaller communities and draw visitors from those areas to get the word out from the beginning. Looking at community newspapers, they're relatively inexpensive to market in. They're about $65, $75 per issue. So if you're wanting to send out a note saying, hey, we're open for the season, come and hang out on Saturdays and we have a U-Pick, you can put that in their newsletter for relatively inexpensive, reuse that ad on social media, on your Facebook and Instagram pages, print it off as a poster, put it in the community post office. There's some really great ways to use the same piece of content over and over and just keep it consistent and provide it consistently to those community partners that you already have. Another, the make or break here for a lot of businesses a lot of the time is that customer experience and the relationship. So working hard to make sure that those relationships are really positive, that you're providing good quality customer service. We offer Service Best for free through Open Farm Days. So if you have any staff that are new to it, get them to sign up. It's free to take, but also if you take it through Tourism Saskatchewan, outside of Open Farm Days, it's not overly expensive. So it's a great opportunity for you to brush up on those customer service skills. One thing always to keep in mind when you're creating a customer experience within your operation is the McDonald's effect. Every time my daughter sees those golden arches, she wants to go to Macca's and get a cheeseburger. And the main reason she wants to go is because it's going to be the same cheeseburger that tastes like cardboard every single time. She wants that same cheeseburger because it's going to be that same experience every time. She knows that's what she wants and it's going to be the same. That's kind of what you want to be able to provide for a tourism experience. Customized, of course, to your visitor, making sure that you're making those adjustments as needed, but being able to provide those consistent visitor experiences will help you provide, get the word out that you are able, or that you provide an exemplary experience, and that word of mouth travels faster than social media does a lot of the time. Another thing to keep in mind when you are creating your marketing plans, getting into development, is understanding what your key message is and that elevator pitch that you have about your business. So find those top things that you want to offer as an experience. So what is the main experience you want to offer? What activities or demonstrations can visitors participate in? What makes your farm unique? Who are you? What is your family involved in the organization as well? Being able to put that into a very simple key message as to what you offer, why you offer it, when you offer it, makes it easy for people to repeat it, especially if you're repeating it over and over again on social media, within your channels, within your community, people will be, by crafting that clear and engaging message, you'll be ready to promote your experience confidently and consistently and face to face once you have those conversations with potential guests. So getting that word out, there are so many ways for you to market what you're doing. Consider these four as kind of a starting platform: understanding on-site, traditional marketing, social media and digital marketing tools, and then really understand and partner with those word of mouth promotions with community groups. They really do go a long ways. There's a lady here who offers um, equine therapy classes just outside of Regina. I think it's closer to Pilot Butte. But what's really neat is majority of her business is through word of mouth, and it's all corporate clients or like women's groups who are back time and time again or refer others to come to her business. I never see her market, and she never markets to consumers. She's focused specifically on those two audiences, but it really has worked well for her. And especially she's busy during that spring, summertime when all the corporate groups are going out to go and do community or the employee enrichment programs. And then in the wintertime, she's actually doing a lot of training in the southern states. So it gives her the opportunity to kind of focus on what she wants to do in the winter and in the summertime and find that good balance. So reviewing and adjusting every year, every quarter, understanding the opportunity to adjust, to make those tweaks to make it a little bit smoother, address those challenges and improve operations, and planning for future growth. If you have ideas, I always have a note in my phone always lined up with just like different ideas that I have for my company and for clients as well. So being able to have that ongoing note that you can refer back to is just so helpful. And then also staying informed with agritourism trends. There's some really great organizations out there like the Culinary Tourism Alliance, Destination Canada, Tourism Saskatchewan, all provide really good information and resources out there for industry and for visitor trends. So just understanding what those are gives you a great opportunity to kind of keep ahead of the curve. Going back into considerations, you really want to make sure, these are just some flags that I want you to keep in mind, is those rezoning and development. Just making sure that you are understanding if there is rezoning or changes that need to be made to your area for your business to run. Just deal with that from the get-go. If there's additional investment to the farm to host visitors, understanding what those costs are, making sure that you are making it safe for visitors to come and that you're within your insurance. All of those things really do feed into each other. You want to make sure that if there is interference with other farming activities, you have support in that. You've had those conversations with your family, with your team to really make sure that it's not going to impede any work that needs to happen, that financial risk, the increased liability, potential extra taxes. Don't want to get into the negative things, but just things to keep aware of. And the other piece to keep in mind is your neighbors. So making sure that there's you're aware of who is around you. Of course, you talk to your neighbors all the time, but you just want to make sure that you're not going to be impeding any of their information or any of their sites. Having really good roadside signage, working with your municipality to have signage put up for you is also a really good opportunity. But if you're only open seasonally or for specific events, open farm days, we provide open farm day signage for you. But if you want to do this on a seasonally open basis or on a regular open basis, you can apply for signage off main highways through the Ministry of Highways. It's actually quite a simple process. But then also working with your RM to find the signage program or bylaw that they have and working with that to make sure your signage is up to date. here are the main resources that I would recommend you guys looking into. I just did very high level today. It's very hard to get into the nitty gritty of getting into agritourism, what exactly you should be doing, all of those details beyond just the high level in a 45-minute conversation. But I just wanted to share with you, here are 4 really great tools that I would recommend. The Elevating Canadian Experience is actually partnered with the Culinary Tourism Alliance and Destination Canada. So there's really good resources there and good storytelling in that. The British Columbia Ministry of Agriculture Farm Diversification document, it's a bit older, but the information I find is still very relevant to modern times. So definitely, I think it was produced in 2015 or 2016, but I do find it very relevant, a lot of the information still. And the Simcoe County Agritourism Toolkit, it is so well written. It gives you such a good outline of what's going or what to consider while developing an agritourism business. The other piece, the universities, what was it? The Oregon State University, I have this backwards, developing a successful agritourism operation. It's a $20 course. This is the one that I had mentioned that does have a bit of a fee associated, but it is very good. It's a module that you work through. It's and it gives you click through, and then you actually have to take a little quiz at the end to say that you finished it. But I did find it very helpful and really good information, like I said, in there. So the other piece to consider is if you do sign up to be a host with Open Farm Days, is that we have a ton of resources that we offer within the event itself. So poster libraries, webinars, lots of free training. We offer free training through Farm and Food Care Saskatchewan, but we've also partnered with Tourism Saskatchewan on Service Best, organizing special events, and the Saskatchewan Ambassador Program. And you get those all for free. The Saskatchewan Ambassador Program is free anyways, but it's just a really good way of telling Saskatchewan's story and a nice little learning opportunity. But those will all be free up here on our training website here in the next couple days. And then also we do have a few other things for day of the event, just tools and resources, guest logins, infographics, coloring pages, farm signage, Saskatchewan Health Authority information, and where to get all of that. There's lots of really good info on there once you sign up to be a host. And then getting into my co-speaker, I have invited Karina to come and from Tourism Saskatchewan. She's a regional development tourism consultant with Tourism Saskatchewan and also has an agritourism background as well. So I'm excited to have the mic passed over to her to share some perspective from Tourism Saskatchewan, what's going on, and some really great resources for you to consider and information for agritourism businesses here in the province. So I'll pass the mic over to you, Karina.
Awesome, thanks. Yes, as Ashley said, I do come from an agritourism background. My husband and I had a guest ranch. Back then, at the beginning, we called it a vacation farm, but then we turned it into a guest ranch as far as the name went. And we had that for just over 20 years, I guess. And we did everything from having people come to do cowboy ranch farming experiences in the summertime, and we managed to get people coming from all over the world to do that. Kept us quite busy in the summer months along with all the regular stuff there is to do with a working farm and ranch. So yeah, we managed that, and then spring and fall we were able to diversify into that as well. We lived really close to a forest boundary. We're right on the forest fringe, so we had great hunting, and we weren't outfitters, but Canadian resident hunters would come and stay with us in the spring and the fall to do their hunting. And then in the wintertime, we had great snow. We were from the northeast up by Nipawin area, and we had snowmobilers coming and going all winter. So we used that as a really great way to, help supplement the farming and ranching income, and it really helped with cash flow sometimes when cash flow was low on the farm. So it was great, and we enjoyed it. The only reason that we quit is because my husband's health was not great, and so we decided to cut back. And then my kids also told me that that farm was a great vacation for everybody else, but not so much for them. And they didn't want me working at that all summer. They wanted to go on some vacations. So yeah, we thought that it was time for a change. And that led me to this job with Tourism Saskatchewan. And I work in the industry development department. And that department is primarily responsible for helping existing tourism businesses flourish and be more profitable. And that means different things to different businesses because everybody has different needs or issues or concerns. And I often say that we're really good sometimes at offering supports, and sometimes we kind of suck at it because we don't have every answer there is for every problem that there is out there, but we do always look for those places where we can improve. When that becomes evident, we try to develop programming or services to fill those gaps. I'm located in the Saskatoon office. Most of our industry development team is there, as well as our training team. We do have 2 people in the Regina office from our department, and that is nice to have someone in the south to manage our southern operators. We don't only, though, work with existing tourism operators. We also help with startups, and we have a few programs around that. And then we also start with what we call, or help with what we call new experience providers, which a lot of you guys might actually fit into that sector. We also have a very large marketing department in our organization, as well as a bunch of other corporate services and things like that. And primarily they are mostly based out of the Regina office. As far as our programs go, I'll talk about the industry development programs to begin with. The first one that I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is a program that we called Achieving Awesome. That program was developed and designed because I would go out and talk to people who had either a skill or specialized knowledge or a hobby or something that would lend itself really well into being developed into a tourism experience. And I would be able to explain the opportunity to them and get them all excited about doing it. And they'd say, well, that sounds great. I'd love to do that, but how do I get started? And I'd say, yeah, we got nothing for you. Figure it out. So we went back and we decided we needed something to help people get through that and learn how to develop not only a profitable tourism experience, but also one that's engaging for the customer so that it would be sustainable. So that program, it takes several months to get through it, but it is mostly done for people that have quote unquote day jobs, because we know that this often begins as a bit of a sideline gig for a lot of people. They're doing it after hours outside of family and work commitments. So we do try and make the program quite flexible so that people can get through it in the evenings, on weekends, that kind of stuff. But it takes people from just having an idea or a concept of what they would like to develop into a tourism experience, all the way through the different stages of the design and development. Includes lots of information around costing and pricing. And it also includes help with piloting or live testing of your experience. And then it also helps with content capture to give the participants that make it that far a little bit of a content library so that they can actually start marketing when they're ready. And all of that is offered for free. We just need to know who's interested, and we sign them up and put them through the program as need be. The other startup program that we have is called Fire Circle. It is not a Tourism Saskatchewan program, but we work closely with the developers of the program. And that program is an online business development program that was designed and developed specifically for people starting businesses in the tourism and hospitality sector. So it's very focused on that type of industry and not general business development, but it takes people through what they call the 5x5 method. So it's 5 steps, and in each step there's 5 workshops, and each one builds upon the other, so that when you're done going through it, and it's all online, you do it at your own pace. When you're done, you come out of that with a full-fledged business plan with 3-year projected financials, which garners itself very well to getting financing through a financial institution or through a grant. So that has been helpful. And we put people, not only startups through that program, but we've also put people who have been in business for a while that haven't really looked closely at their business or don't have a business plan. And we have also put people through that who have acquired a business and need to make that business their own. So it works for a variety of different operators that we've found, and we sponsor people to go through that program. We also have a free guide online on our Business Hub. It's called the Business Development and Finance Guide. It might be helpful for people, just all the different considerations and things starting up a business in the tourism industry. We also have a funding program that is called the Tourism Development Program. Ashley referred to the diversification program. We used to have the diversification program, but just this last year, we revamped that program, and now it's called the Tourism Development Program. And it's changed somewhat in the fact that the first program, you actually had to do something that you'd never done before, hence the name diversification. But now you don't have to necessarily do that. They've got 3 streams in that program. You can get up to $40,000, and it is a grant. You do not have to pay it back. But you do have to have some of your own equity in it. And the 3 streams are, one is growth and expansion. So a really easy way to explain that is if you are an accommodation provider, let's say, and you have 4 cabins and then you want to have 6, you can apply to that program and get some funding to help you build and grow your business in that capacity. The other one is winterization. So that really speaks for itself. We get people who are mostly seasonal summertime businesses, and then they want to expand and they want to be able to deliver services or experiences in the wintertime. So they need winterization for buildings or infrastructure or even sometimes equipment. And they can apply to that stream for that. And then we also have the experience development stream. So that one is a little bit different in the fact that you don't need as much equity to get the $40,000, but you do have to be developing a hands-on immersive experience. This is not for DIY stuff. It's not for rentals. It's for something where we would more or less call it people doing things with people. So we want locals doing things with visitors and really immerse them into the destination that they're in to learn more about the people who live here and the people who are working here and making things here and creating things and doing all kinds of neat and unique things that are very Saskatchewan based. So that program is also available. That one has a rolling intake. You can apply at any time, but they do have times where they set aside for adjudication because it does have to go through some checks and balances. It has an adjudication team, looks at all of the applications, decides which ones have merit enough to go forward, and then our executive leadership team has to do the final approvals for any funding that's approved. So it does take a little bit of time, but if we do know that we have an applicant that is in a bit of a hurry and needs to, have their application looked at and approved fairly quickly, we can move on those things quicker than some of the other ones that don't need that quick turnaround time. Some of the other programs that we have that aren't related with the development team that I'm in is we do have a marketing funding program as well. It's called the Marketing and Event Partnership Program. People call it MEP for short. It is an annual program. You can apply again and again and again to it. You must have pretty much have to have a marketing plan in order to compete in this program. It's very competitive and it is terribly underfunded, like most of our programs. But yeah, so I would suggest strongly that you need a marketing plan to get into this program, but you can apply up to $15,000 to help with your marketing of your tourism product, destination, or experience. And that they really like to or prefer to see digital marketing campaigns, but they will support some of the other, what we would call more traditional advertising, such as print, billboards, TV, radio, those kinds of things. But really what they're pushing more people to do is more digital advertising. So that would be like boosted Facebook ads, purchased Facebook ads, different social media stuff, Google AdWords, those kinds of things. You can also get support to bring in media. So that would be someone who might be a travel writer or a blogger or a travel influencer to experience what you're offering, and then they usually write about it. So you can get money to help bring them in to your area and your business. You can get money to help you with research, like Ashley was just talking about. If you want specific, very targeted research, you can get money to help you with that. And you can get money to help with websites and online booking agencies. And you can get help with hiring what they call a third-party digital agent, who would actually help you look after all of your online and your marketing for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you hire them and you walk away. You really have to work closely with them, but they are professionals and they know how to do online marketing and all that kind of stuff. And it is so time consuming as an operator to try and take all that on yourself. They do offer that support so that you can hire an agency to help you manage that. And it is a huge, huge time saver. So that's another thing. And then you can also get what we call content capture support. So that would be to bring in a photographer or videographer to take videos, professional videos and video that you can use in your marketing, be it however it may come. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And like I said, it's $15,000. They don't have a specific set equity that you have to have. I think most of the time they go on a 50-50, but it's not, that's not a hard and fast rule. But don't come to them with no money and say, I want $15,000. You have to have some sort of equity into the project that you're applying for. They do have an intake. I think they do it usually kind of spring and fall. They just closed an intake here. They're now doing their adjudication on that one. So if you're looking to do marketing for this upcoming year, you've kind of missed this one, but that will be open again in the fall, and that might be a good time to apply so that you could be marketing your experience in your farm stays. If you're only open in the summer, you could get the money next winter, and then start doing your marketing for the upcoming season. We do have other departments that might have some services that you might be able to access as well. We have a travel media department. We have the travel trade department that'll help you get into international markets if you're interested. And we also have access to the Saskwander now. So, all of those things are available. And most of that information is found on our business hub. I will put into the chat right now my contact information. And if you want anything more about that, then you can always contact me. And if I don't have the answers, or if I'm not the one that's, the one that's able to answer your questions, I can definitely put you on the right path. I hope that was helpful.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Karina. It's always just so nice to hear everything that you guys do, because it's quite broad in which you guys are able to support operators. So it's always so good to have like the full scope of everything that you guys do. So thank you so much for hopping on. And that is kind of the wrap up for the formal part of the presentation. We do have upcoming host webinars here that we will be offering. We're actually going to be having someone come in and talk about Canva and using AI to use to help promote and market your Open Farm Days event, selling and serving food on your farm. So we're having Saskatchewan Health Authority come and talk. From farm to market, we actually have Brooke from the Tourism Saskatchewan team going to join us on how to market to your location. And then the farm to market one, sorry, is Holly Laird from the Regina Farmers Market. So if you're interested in hosting like a vendor's market or a farmer's market at your venue, she'll kind of give you some tips and tricks and best practices for that one. So exciting webinars coming up, and there's great opportunity to always learn some more. So I will stop the recording here. Just give me 1 second.